if we recall, Leia calls Han a scruffy-looking Nerf herder. I'm assuming
Yes.
Nerfs are animals. So Nerf nuggets, it could be assumed that it's poop. It is a Nerf poop. We call them nuggets. We call cow poop cow pies. Why would you not? Nerf nuggets could be poop. So maybe Hunter and Echo are just collecting poop.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars podcast, Bad Batch Breakdown Edition. Season 2, Episode 4, Faster is the name of the episode, and we are here to break it down today. So before we get into that, let's start our episode with some Star Wars news. Da-da-da-da!
Da-da-da.
Mandalorian Season 3. Mandalorian Season 3 trailer is here
That's a hot
and
topic.
upon us.
That's the hot topic right now. Exciting stuff. I mean, what's the date? March 1st, I think, is
The premiere, yeah, I think it's March 1st. I don't know. I mean,
March
honestly,
1st.
they've changed it so many times. I'm just losing track, and I don't know what to trust.
Yeah. I think it's March 1st, though, yeah. So I think it's finally here. The new trailer comes out. Awesome, amazing. But you and I were just talking about this. We've had the wind taken out of our sails with this a couple times, and we've had to wait like a really long time since season 2. So I don't know. I'm just kind of like, bring it here already. Just show me the episodes. I want to watch.
It's kind of like the hype doesn't hit for it until it's here. I feel the same thing with Bad Batch. Is like I was not like hyped for Bad Batch until Bad Batch started premiering, because again, it's been so long. It's almost been 2 years. Yeah, it's been about 2 years since the last Bad Batch season. And so with like Mando, we're coming up on like 3 years. It's like, I'm not going to really feel that hype until we actually get there and the episodes start premiering. And I'm sure it'll kick in, but why don't we watch the trailer real quick and then we'll briefly talk about it. I don't think that there's too much to talk about there, but
yeah, I think
like,
it's a lot of the stuff we've talked about in the past. But let's watch it. We should watch it again.
Our people are scattered like stars in the galaxy. What are we? What do we stand for? Being a Mandalorian's not just learning about how to fight. You also have to know how to navigate the galaxy. That way, you'll never be lost.
I hate those things.
I know. They're so creepy. They used to freak me out when I was a kid.
I'm going to Mandalore so that I may be forgiven for my transgressions.
May the Force be with you!
This is the way.
There's
Okay, there it
something
is.
dangerous happening out there. And by the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it'll be too late.
Hang on, kid.
I love those guys.
This is the way.
Oh my god, that soundtrack is so good though.
It's so good. It's so good. I thought the same thing. That's one of the main things that stands out to me in this is like it's already become an iconic soundtrack for any TV show, I think.
It's so good. Like the second, like the entire trailer was like, oh, this looks like really fun. And then by the time that theme kicked in, I was like, okay, like that gets me a little excited. So I am looking forward to that. So there are a couple shots I want to talk about here because I think, like you and I discussed before we started the show, it's a lot of the same stuff. I think that they're trying to keep everything really close to the chest just because that's very Dave Filoni and very Jon Favreau. We want to save any surprises until you watch the show, which I really appreciate as a viewer because it makes the whole viewing experience a lot of fun. But I think the two shots in here that are really worth talking about is this Coruscant shot, which I assume is Coruscant. That is Coruscant, right?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
I was like, unless they're doing something else, that looks very obviously Coruscant to me. So I'm really excited that they're going back there. So maybe we're going to see how the New Republic functions, because this is 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we're going to get some politics and cloning conversations because that scientist guy.
I hope
is
so, because this is an
in the
element
shot.
of Star Wars that
What's
like
happening out there?
I'm super interested in seeing is more about like what happened afterwards. And like Coruscant is one of my favorite planets. I think it's really cool. It adds so much more to the Star Wars universe. And if we're able to visit there and have some more politics stuff or just show what's been going on there, since it is like the center of the galaxy or like capital or whatever, I'm always a fan of more Coruscant. So I'm definitely excited for this too.
Yeah, and that scientist guy is there.
Yeah,
the
scientist guy, Camino guy, yeah.
Yeah, the
so like,
Camino
what's
guy.
he up to? He might play a bigger part than we thought when we watched Mandalorian season 1.
So I think this is where the cloning aspect comes back in, because you can see the same kind of scientist is in the Bad Batch. So that's what I mean when I
right.
say that there's going to be story overlap.
I hope so, because I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity with the Book of Boba Fett for me. I know we've talked about this before, but like connecting the Book of Boba Fett more with Bad Batch, I think would have been cooler. Like adding in an element of Omega or something like that. I think they could have done something there. But any kind of intertwining of these stories together, I'm a fan of. I love. So I think you're correct. We'll probably get some more of that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how they tie in the cloning storyline, because there was a lot of creepy stuff set up in Mando season 2 regarding the cloning. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Some good hints. Some like major hints.
Yeah, some major hints. The other major hint that we got is this shot of the Jedi Temple. Who saved Grogu? And it looks like we're going to get this answer during this season. What is interesting to me about this shot is I went and I did my research, and the Jedi on the left with the green lightsaber kind of looks like and I had to look up his name because I didn't know his name. Kind of looks like the Jedi that Anakin fights in the hologram when Obi-Wan's watching.
Yep. I thought the same thing. I thought
think-
this could potentially be that scene because there is like 4 of them, and in that hologram security footage tape, he's fighting several of them. So I totally agree. It could be that, but it could be something else. They could be using a tool that's not a lightsaber to cut through this door. I just want to throw that out there. I don't think that's super likely, but it is a possibility that maybe it's clones using some kind of like mechanism to cut down the door.
Dude, how sick would that be if it was Anakin?
I think it probably is. If we're being honest, and we know Filoni, and he loves to do Order 66 stuff, and obviously we know Hayden Christensen's back in business, and I think they're gonna, since he's now invested in it with the Obi-Wan show, I think they're gonna try to use him as much as possible, which I think is a fantastic move if they do that, even if it's for just a minute or two here. We know he's coming back for the Ahsoka show. If we have him in this for even 30 seconds, I'd be like, really, really good use of that character and actor.
Well, it would be. It'd be like having Luke all over again. Because I the thing that I love about Dave Filoni and just the way he approaches stories is he doesn't use characters unless they serve the story. Like, he won't bring in any big characters unless he's like, are they actually playing a part in what the story has to say? So if Anakin comes in, it's like, oh, you know that there's an essential storyline here with Grogu and how Grogu got out and who saved him and how did Anakin know of his existence, you know, when he was Darth Vader? And it just brings up a lot of questions. And so like this shot by itself is like enough to get me super pumped up.
Same. I totally agree. And I think, I mean, I don't know how long this scene is, but we could get some, just theorizing here, we could get some really cool nuggets. For example, maybe Anakin comes in, he defeats them all, he sees Grogu and spares his life for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe Grogu defeats him somehow with some kind of force power, or stops him for long enough to where he can escape and get away through some other Jedi coming in and saving him. We don't really know, but I think they're going to explore that a bit more in this season. I think way more answers to who Grogu is and how he got out of there. And this is probably the scene where we find that out. We might not. It might just be a quick snippet of Anakin fighting them, and it's like a flashback that Grogu has. But I think it'd be interesting if maybe he came face to face with Anakin or Vader in this circumstance.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy. And I think that it might not be what we think it is. You know?
Yeah. You have to fully expect it to be something that you don't expect.
Because
You know
Ahsoka,
I mean?
Ahsoka says to Mando, she's like, someone took him from the temple, and after that, his memory goes dark. And so she's like, I can't access it anymore. Like, she's like, I can't read his mind. She's like, I can only see so far as to what he saw, but I can't see beyond what happened after he was taken. So it's like, oh, okay, so did somebody wipe his mind? Like what happened there? Like why can't we see
Yeah.
further into his future? So it's just
Trauma,
like
trauma response.
it's a PTSD response, but
Yeah.
probably it might be. But I just think I don't think this is going to go the way we think it's going to go, and
I agree.
that has me really excited. Last thing I think, because a lot of these shots I think were, I mean, the storyline we have Din going to Mandalore to pay for his transgressions. I don't.
Yep.
Is this going to be like a Mines of Moria thing where he goes through and it's like this desolate and creepy Mandalore, and like what does that even look like? Like how do you pay for your transgressions? Like,
Right. I don't know. Like it's some kind of journey. I guess he has to like. It's a thing in the Mandalorian code. I guess. Can you go to that shot where it shows like the ruins of Mandalore? Can you find that real quick? Mm-hmm. There was something
like, right
interesting
here.
I thought of, and I don't know if there's anything to this at all, but there was just one thing that came to mind after you pull up the shot, and I'll tell you what like where my mind immediately went. This one right here.
this is so Lord of the Ringsy.
It is. This is weird. I don't know if there's any connection here or anything like that, but it kind of, to me, looks like the lost city of Atlantis.
Oh,
If you look at the lost city of Atlantis, it is, and like drawings of it and what it was supposed to have looked like, it's like it's a circle just like this. It's like a big circle, and then there's like a circle within it with like water in between, and there's like circles within the circles.
okay.
I don't know if there's anything to that, but I don't know. Maybe that's kind of something similar. Like he's going to find this kind of lost, forgotten city, right, and try to find out more about himself and his own, and pay
Yeah,
for
I'm-
his transgressions, and look more into his past and what being a Mandalorian actually means.
I
So I
wonder
don't know
what
if there's
that-
anything there. It's just that's the first thought that came to my mind. I was like, oh, it kind of looks like renderings of the lost city of Atlantis.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm very curious as to what that kind of spiritual journey is. You
Yeah.
know, like what does he have to go through? It's
He does,
not
he
like
does a lot of
it's not
yoga.
like-
They put him in a sauna. He has to do like a peace pipe ritual and has to climb a mountain or something. I don't know.
Do you think he has to fight the Minotaur or something?
Yeah. Maybe that's what that guy is that Grogu beats in the cave. Maybe some
It's the
Greek
Minotaur.
mythology things. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I
going
don't
through a
know if-
labyrinth. That's also what this could be, a labyrinth. That kind of
Yeah,
looks
it
like
could be a labyrinth. I am just excited. I'm excited to get into what a destroyed Mandalore looks like. We're all familiar with it in the Clone Wars, but I want to see. It's going to be A, so cool to see Mandalore in live action, and B, like is it creepy? Like, what are there people still like residing in it because they've been like fearful of the Empire all these years, or they came back
Yeah.
and they hid because the Empire forgot about it? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of cool questions here. So I think this shot is awesome, and it reminds me so much of Lord of the Rings. That was like
it's
my
very
first
cinematic.
thought. Mm-hmm.
And this whole trailer looks very cinematic, which I
does.
love. I think that's great. I love that in TV shows. So I'm hoping that's the energy they're projecting through this, and I hope that that's actually what it ends up being. Yeah, some good stuff here all around. A lot of it's stuff that we've seen in the first trailer. Or the one that
These
leaked or
little
whatever.
Babu Frick
These guys,
characters.
Anzellan, whatever they're called, the little Babu Fricks.
The little Baba. The only thing I remember from The Rise of Skywalker, I saw it once and I was like, this is a terrible film. I'm never watching this again. The only thing I remember is the little ha ha this guy did in like the middle of the movie when he's fixing
We need-
3PO.
I think he's a fan favorite. I think Babu Frick stole everyone's hearts. He's great. He's
I gotta
great.
pull up that sound at some point. But
That I did
it's-
watch that movie on a plane like 6 months ago, just to give it another shot because I'd only seen it once too,
Mm-hmm.
and I wish I hadn't have watched it a second time.
Look, it's better than The Last Jedi, but it's still not good.
Yeah, I think it goes Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi in terms of ranking. Force
Yeah.
Awakens had potential. Like it wasn't the worst movie in the world. The ending was horrible. The fact they didn't have Luke in it at all, except for the end, was horrible. But like it set up I was like, all right, I'm interested in what they could do something really interesting with the next movie. Like I thought Finn becoming a Jedi. I'm like, that's a really cool idea. Like a
He
stormtrooper
is
that
the
turns into a
best.
Jedi.
He carries
And
those
then
movies.
they just threw him in the garbage, and you're like, I mean, everyone agrees with this, but what a wasted character he was.
Yeah, Finn, I watched the scene. This is a side tangent, but I watched the scene where Rey and Finn meet for the first time, and Finn's just really likable. He's really charming. He's easy to like. Like, his characterization is super fun. He's got, like, the classic Star Wars vibe, and they just did nothing with him.
He's the best out of the new characters, in my opinion. I think he had the most potential. He's the most interesting. I think he fit into the universe the best, and they just, I don't know, they did him dirty, in my opinion.
Yes, they did him absolutely filthy. But this is a great trailer to bring it back to Mando. I'm really pumped up about this. Again, they didn't really reveal a whole lot. They're keeping it close to the chest, but I appreciate that because that to me is good storytelling to like let your viewer experience it for the first time with fresh eyes instead of revealing everything in the trailer. So it looks like it'll be very promising. I'm very excited. We have 1 month. It's so exciting.
And we'll
Can't
be
wait.
on a busy schedule for content, you and I.
Oh my God. I don't know how it's going to be insane because those episodes are going to be like 45 minutes each, right? 45 minutes to like an hour.
I don't know. Maybe, but that's what I thought was going to happen with Obi-Wan too. And there was one like 27-minute episode in Obi-Wan. And I was like,
They were pushing 23 with that show. Yeah. Anyway, it looks great.
I don't know.
Excited for Mando.
I'm excited for it too. This is Filoni and Favreau's bread and butter. They've done a great job so far. The second season is one of my favorite seasons of television, like ever, I think. And so I can only assume season 3 is just going to be better. And hope. I mean, like we talked about last time, like they've put it off for a while, but hopefully that's a good thing. It means they're just making sure that it's high quality.
Yeah. It'll be a good time, and I'm just looking forward to having it back. I've missed it so much. But we have a Bad Batch episode to talk about today called Episode 4 called Faster. The episode summary is the team enters the colorful and dangerous world of racing. So Matt, let's break down this episode scene by scene like how we did last time, because that seemed to be
Let's break it down.
a good format.
We start out, we're at Sid's parlor on whatever planet that is. Wrecker's playing that weird chess game. What's it called? Jara something? Djarik?
I don't know.
I love that game. I wish that was actually a real thing because I would love to have one of those in my house. I think that'd be an awesome art piece to have. I'm hoping in my lifetime we get to see a replica of that game, like a hologram chess game with like.
That'd
weird
be so
monsters.
sick.
So she wins. She beats him. She's like, "Hey, you owe me the mix, the
Mantel
the
mix
or whatever." The Mantel mix.
It's like a reference from season 1.
Yeah. Wrecker wants another game. Sid's like, "Nah, I got a job for you." They mentioned something about how Hunter and Echo are on a mission to deliver Nerf nuggets.
Okay, what the hell are Nerf nuggets?
Yeah, I don't know. This is another one of those references where like they'll just throw something in there that sounds Star Warsy, and I'm just like, am I supposed to know what that is? I don't know. I don't think so.
I need
But
to
they
know
sound
what Nerf is.
delicious.
I was like, are they just somebody tweeted? I laughed so hard.
It's
They're
not-
like, so are they Uber Eats drivers now?
No, I think they are. I think they're doing some really dirty cowboy work. Because if we recall, Leia calls Han a scruffy-looking Nerf herder. I'm assuming
Yes.
Nerfs are animals. So Nerf nuggets could be assumed that it's poop. It is a Nerf poop. We call them nuggets. We call cow poop cow pies. Why would you not? Nerf nuggets could be poop. So maybe Hunter and Echo are just collecting poop.
That'd be a really crappy thing of Sid to do.
Yeah, literally crappy, but also, I don't think that's an unreasonable assumption.
Nerf nuggets.
It's a possibility. See, this is why you tune into the show. You tune in for the plausible theories, and we use our skills in deduction to assume what is happening for things that we don't know about. So Nerf nuggets, that's what Echo and Hunter are doing. Collecting poop for whatever reason. I don't know. 50 cases of it too. That's not a small amount. Tech's like, yeah, that's a
It's
waste
like
of our time. We're
fertilizer.
not going to do that. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, maybe they're just on a farming mission. I don't know.
They're going back to Cut LaQuaine. They're giving him Nerf nuggets to fertilize the soil.
Yeah, fertilize the soil with Nerf nuggets. Could be good. Sid says she needs their help for a new job. Says the shuttle's waiting. Tech's kind of reluctant, but he's like, I'll go along. I can't let these two idiots go by themselves. That would be a bad combo. Wrecker and Omega together.
Wrecker and Omega's
that's
not a good
recipe
combo.
for disaster. Yeah.
That's not a good combo.
So they go with Sid to Safatoma, which is a spaceport, seedy reputation. I like this planet. It looks cool, very Star Wars-esque. Reminds me of Tatooine, pod racing kind of planet. Looks like a fun place to be, heavy in gambling. I'm assuming there's a lot of scummy people there, but I liked this planet.
This whole
Looks like a pretty
this
cool
whole episode
place.
was a homage to the Phantom Menace. It just felt like a love letter to the Phantom Menace, which I really appreciated.
Very similar, like very prequel-y type of vibes. Like
Yeah.
felt very much like the pod racing scene in Phantom Menace with just those other different elements that are there. So we see a bunch of different species there. We see this. Then we get introduced to a new character, Teo, the robot, voiced by Ben Schwartz, which you picked up on immediately. I had to look it up because I couldn't figure it out on my own.
I'm not kidding. Ever since he's played Sonic, I like he's just like I know he's got a recognizable voice, but I'm so used to hearing him as Sonic because he's done the 2 newest Sonic films with James Marsden. Ever since he's done that role, I can pick up immediately because he's got this kind of, I don't want to say whiny, but it's like a little bit of a whiny voice. You know, he's like, "Oh, you want to challenge Teo?" Like it's just, it's like it's very
kind
animated.
of a condescending. Yeah, he'll always be John Ralphio to me.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
No, but he was extremely recognizable to me. I don't know if you want to get into this, but the second character that appears also has a big voice actor. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Oh, the Chinhorn guy?
Yeah, Malagio or whatever his name is, Malago. It's Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah. I knew I recognized him from somewhere, but he's also he's done voice acting before, right?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that he has. I didn't look up like his IMDb, but I waited till the very end and I looked at the credits because it was driving me crazy. I was like, oh my god, that's the guy from Ghostbusters.
That's a great pickup. He has an amazing creamy voice. I love his voice.
God.
I want to hear him act more. It's such a succulent, smooth, trusting voice.
It's
I thought
really
he did a
good.
fantastic job throughout the episode. Also, fun fact about him: he's from Benton Harbor, Michigan, which is actually pretty close to where you and I grew up.
Is he really? Mm-hmm. Oh wow, small world.
Sure is. Yeah, so two voice actors in this now. I didn't know that, but that's very cool. I loved him, by the way. I thought he was a great addition. But yeah, we get Ben Schwartz as Teo. He's like the star racer, right? And he wins this race, and Sid takes them down to meet Teo. As you said, he's kind of like a sassy droid with like a cool
Teo?
personality. Cool animation, like very creative design of this droid. I don't know that we've seen a droid like this before, but really cool design, I thought. And great casting with Ben Schwartz. I thought he fit the part perfectly.
Yeah.
So very good casting there. He's boasting of his abilities. Teo goes inside. He's repairing his speeder, and Tech's like, "Hey, that's not designed for racing." And then Teo's like, "Yeah, that's why I modify him, idiot."
He's like, "Shut up, idiot."
A little condescending here. Yeah, he's a little bit of a sassy boy. So they're getting along just fine and dandy, Teo and the Bad Batch. And Sid comes, and she's visited by the guy, whatever his name was, Grinny.
It's like the big guy, Ernie Hudson.
Yeah.
It's like
Grinny or
Malagio or Malajo or Malagi.
Oh, Malagi. That's right, Malagi.
Malagi. I had to write down his name and like how to say it. I think it's Malagi.
So this guy's badass. He's like 10 feet tall. I love this guy. I love this species. We've never seen it before. Apparently, it is a species called Dowutin. Dowutin, I think is how you pronounce it.
I didn't look it up.
But I love this guy. He has the sick chin horns. He's bald. He's menacing looking, dude. Not the kind of guy you want to mess with. Kind of definitely has a seedy past. Definitely belongs on this planet. He also has his crew with him, including a Gamorrean guard. I'm always a fan of Gamorrean guards. When the Gamorrean guards died in Book of Boba Fett, that's like one of the worst moments in Star Wars for me. When they get pushed off the cliff, I was like, no.
I'll never forget that reaction from you. That was the origin of the twirl, and I'll go back and rewatch your reaction video to that because your reaction to the twirl in the Book of Boba Fett finale brings me so much joy.
That's like top 5 Star Wars moments for me. Is the twirl. I love the twirl. The twirl that's some of the hardest I've ever laughed at a TV show, I think.
You know what's funny? This is like side tangent for 2 seconds. I recently rewatched Spy Kids, which is directed by Robert Rodriguez. And I was dying. I was dying, Matt, because I was like, oh my God, he's applying all these same tactics to Book of Boba Fett.
It doesn't translate. It just does
It's so
not
bad.
translate.
It's so bad. Anyway, keep going.
Unfortunate, but it is what it is. So where were we? Malagi comes into Sid. He's like, hey, stay off my turf. And she's like, hey, I'm allowed to be here. Leave me alone. And he's like, we're gonna beat you guys. He takes an interest in the clones, and he puts a bargain or some kind of side bet, right? Some wager for the race, which she accepts.
By the way, her full name is like Citerin Scaleback or right?
It's Mistress. It's the Mistress.
Mistress.
she was a
Mistress
dominatrix in a
Sitterin.
previous life.
Mistress Sitterin Scaleback, I think is her full name.
That's actually kind of a sick name. Sitterin.
Sitterin Scaleback.
That's a
So
dope name, dude.
it's actually a really cool name.
So Tech asks her, he's like, what's the deal with that guy? And Sid's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's just part of the business, baby. And so during the next, we cut to the next race. Teo's racing. We're like, oh, he's probably going to win. But he's racing against this guy, Malagi's crew. They corner him, right, like in the tunnel, and they pull like a fast move on him. They kind of team up to make sure he can't win. And
He Sebulba'd him.
Yeah, they Sebulba'd him. Yeah, that's exactly right. They Sebulba'd him. There's one part here too in this scene where they shoot the blaster bolts, which takes out one of like the spectators.
Oh yeah, and then like
blast.
everybody turns around in shock, and then they start clapping again.
Yeah, they just don't care. This person got blasted.
Yeah, there's this one woman that they animate in that scene if you go back, because I've seen the episode twice, where she like looks back, it's like,
Yeah.
you're like, someone just
There's a lot
got
of good
shot
shots.
behind you.
There's a lot of good shots of the crowd in this episode, like the owl-looking guy with the crazy horns. I don't remember what the
Yeah.
species is. I love that guy. But yeah, this person just gets blasted. So Sid has told Teo, don't go take the left tunnel. He takes the left tunnel anyways. They claw him. They grab his speeder with the claw. The other guy like chops it up, and then he spins out of control, and he like breaks into a million pieces. His whole speeder breaks down, which I guess that's the thing. Like, these are all speeders, which I think is an important thing to bring up, because I guess they don't have the same capabilities as like a regular ship in terms of their gravitational pull, because there's like
Yeah.
holes in the tunnels, and they have to like go on the sides to go over the holes.
Yeah.
So like they can't like jump over them, I guess, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Super
But,
creative
yeah.
too. The track, the whole
Very
concept
creative,
of the racing
very exciting
track.
scene. Like, this is an intense, fun scene. You know, good pacing on it, all that stuff. But yeah, they blow him up. He ends up not finishing. He gets blasted into a million pieces, and they lose. So we see Tech and Wrecker and Omega comes down, right? And
Yeah.
they're trying to salvage everything. And Tech's like, we're done. This ship is broken. And then Wrecker finds him. He's like, no, we can fix it. Optimistic Wrecker here. He's like, we got this. We can fix him. Don't worry. Don't be such a pessimistic Nancy. But then we see Malagi come up, and he's like, hey. He wasted no seconds, by the way. The race ended like 10 seconds ago, and he comes out. He's like, pay me
really-
up. Pay me now. Which is a bit aggressive. They were just waiting for the second the race was over to go collect their debts. So he comes down and starts threatening her, right? He starts threatening Sid. And then Sid looks to Tech and Wrecker. I thought this was interesting. And she's like, come on, give me some muscle here, boys. Like, she essentially really just brought them with because she wanted them to be
To defend
protection.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
She
So
wanted
knew that
bodyguards.
this was going to happen like all along. But yeah, she wanted them to, she'd be like, all right, I got two beefy guys with me. Or not, I have one beefy guy and then one kind of Dorcas loser, but he's cool. I mean, he can help, I guess.
He could help.
He can help. And so I thought that was kind of interesting how she's just like,
Well,
Come on,
she
guys,
also
do your
straight up
thing.
tells them, she's like, did you really think I brought you along for the company? Hey, I'm being threatened. Kill these guys.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
And then Omega comes in with the aggressive negotiations.
Right. So the clone, before things get messy, Omega steps in, smart move, and proposes another race. And she's like, hey, we'll pay you double if you win, and then we'll get Sid back if she wins. So everyone's like, bad idea. I'm like, yeah, probably not the smartest idea. You're like 12 years old. Let the adults handle this. But it's better than them blasting each other. He agrees. This guy agrees. This Chinhorn guy, who I love, super scary, best voice ever, says he agrees. And then he warns everyone. He's like, hey, you guys better pay your stuff. So now we cut, fixing the speeder. It's in bad shape. We're not looking so hot for Teo and his ship. And I thought this was a funny scene. They're trying to put him back together. He's concerned they're not doing it correctly, and he's being extra sassy. He's like, you're doing it wrong. Telling them how to do their job, essentially.
I think there's a moment where Tech gets really irritated. Or I can't remember. There is a moment, I don't remember what point in the episode, but there's like a bit of animation where you can see like Tech just has like this really irritated look on his face and like looks back.
Yeah.
So I
there's a
appreciate the battle of the wits.
Yeah, I agree. Even when Teo's like in a vulnerable state, he doesn't care. He's like, I'm still going to talk shit. So then Wrecker proposes a very Wrecker thing where he's like, we should just take him on. But then he's like, no, bad idea. You're going to end up dead, essentially. Cut to the next scene. We see Malagi and Sid having their little conversation, which opens it up to they have a bit of a background, which is also kind of an interesting scene. It's like we know that they know each other better than previously thought. You know, up until this point, we didn't really know the extent of their relationship.
They have a history.
Yeah, he's talking about like her shady past, and he's like, they're gonna get to know the real you at some point.
Well, Tech
and
even
she's like very like standoffish.
Yeah, I think not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but in the prior scene, even Tech says, he's like, Sid has this reputation where she's constantly getting in trouble, and we're pulling her out of it. Like, essentially, Tech's telling Omega, he's like, we are her poster boys, without saying, like, we're her poster boys, we're her poster boys. And then the following scene, I thought it was interesting that going off, is it Malagi? It's Malagi, right?
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it that way. Malagi and Sid, he's like, oh, pours her a glass of beer or something. He's like, to old times. And she's like, well, maybe I've changed. And so I don't know if this is like, I feel like this entire episode in general is setting up Sid's eventual exit, or the Bad Batch's exit from her life.
Yeah, they're definitely setting up something here. And you know what else I thought was interesting with this scene that you just brought up is that he's referring to her in a way that's like, you were shady. And this guy seems pretty shady. This guy seems like kind of a bad dude.
The king of
he's
shady.
Like looking at her and he's like, you were bad. You were not a nice person. And then she's like, I've changed. And he's like, all right, whatever, I guess we'll see. And then they drink together or whatever. But I'm like, that's kind of telling, right? So she must have been kind of a bad person.
Well, she looks...
If he's sitting there,
She looks a little regretful in that scene. Or just, like, insecure, at least. At the fact that he's, like, pointing that out about her. And he's like, well, they're going to find out eventually. Like, I don't know. I thought her reaction was interesting.
Yeah, it's a classic trope, though, I think, in a lot of movies, TV shows, where people are like, it's like a you can't escape from your past type of thing, which generally means when you're watching a character progression and character development, it usually means their past is going to come back to haunt them or influence the plot in future episodes in some way. So although this whole episode, like as a whole, didn't really move the plot forward throughout the season in general, there are these little nuggets here where you're like, that's going to come into play later. Yeah. And this was one of those scenes. So next scene, prior to the third race, getting Teo ready to race. Tech's analyzing the course, being a dork.
I think it's a testament to his character.
100%, yeah, he's very much like
analytical.
I need to prepare for every possible situation. We need to be set up for success, because if we don't win this, we're kind of screwed. I don't know how we're going to pay. He's telling Teo, like, your strategy is kind of flawed. Here's better ways to do it. But as they're having this conversation, my favorite scene in the episode is he steps back and just gets smashed by a speeder, which I think is hilarious. Also, who is the speeder? Why was that guy on the course? He didn't think to honk? He's just going full speed.
It just was totally unexpected. It was very like Looney Tunes of them to have like the character talking in mid-sentence just get run over. But it was like not even on the track. And they're like, oh, we have a crash in the pit. And I'm like, okay, but he hit them like on the ledge and then went down.
Yeah, so I don't know why that guy was there. Also, brings up an interesting question. Do speeders have horns? Do they have beepers that can beep? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe that's something they should look into.
Either way, that guy who hit him is a jerk. But maybe it was on purpose from Malagi. Or Malagi,
it's really funny when you see the speeder crash, when you see Wrecker, Tech and Omega run out to like the disassembled speeder and the disassembled Teo. The pilot like walks out, looks at the Bad Batch and just shrugs and walks away. Yeah. And there's like this moment where Wrecker like looks like he's gonna go after him, and then he's like, whatever.
Yeah. And then we see obviously Teo's damaged. We're like, who's gonna drive? We don't know what to do. It's not gonna be Wrecker. We know that. So it kind of has to be Tech, right?
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite parts of this is they're like trying to fix, or they're like grabbing Teo, right? And he has his last words, which are, I regret nothing. As he just shuts down. Which I'm like, wow, what a profound last sentence to say before you run. So I guess he's gone forever.
I regret nothing, Teo.
Yeah, I regret nothing. Done.
Teo, Michael Scott. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So now they're saying you should forfeit, and then Tech's like, no, I'm going to do it. I can do this, which is a ballsy move, by the way, especially coming from someone like Tech. Speaks a lot to his character as well, willing to do what it takes to get things done, but unexpected kind of. You know, he's not. They've really been focusing a lot more on him this season so far, I think, and this is another way they're doing that. And I thought that was just an interesting choice.
Yeah, and especially in the first episode after, like, Echo's like, hey, stay here. I'm going to go find Omega. Tech's like, no. Just limps along and then holds his own against the other clone troopers when they fight.
Yeah.
So they've kind of been giving a testament to his strength of character and, you know, his analytical nature and and his capabilities as a character. And I just wonder if they're going to continue to utilize that more in the season.
I would imagine, yes. It seems to be a big focus right now.
I just wonder if that's going to come into play with like a bigger arc or something.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it makes me a little nervous because usually when they do this with a character, sometimes they make them the sacrificial lamb to tug on your heartstrings a little bit more. And
the sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, something could end up happening to him later on in the season.
I think I think he's lower on the list. I would say if somebody's going to go, it's probably going to be Echo or Crosshair. If they were going to pick somebody, I'd say that they were the two easiest targets right now.
Yeah, that's true. I would see Echo leaving before dying. And with Crosshair, I would see him, he's going to continue to be the antagonist, I think, for a little while longer. So I think...
Well,
yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying I could see them doing something tragic with Tech later on.
The fandom will riot.
I think so too. But
a lot of simps on Twitter for Tech lately. I don't know if you've been checking out the Bad Batch tag, but man, there are a hell of a lot of simps for Tech. Hashtag simps for Tech.
It's a good transition because he gets majorly disrespected in the next part where they're announcing all the participants and they have these awesome names like the Bad Bomber and stuff like that. And then it's just like, and Tech. And you're like, oh.
By the way, the guy... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess they didn't have any context, but still. The guy, he's an announcer. He could have come up with something, you know?
I just, like, speaking of the announcer guy, whoever played him did a great announcer voice. It was like a very classic announcer sounding voice, like of like football or something. And I just thought he did a fantastic job. These events look like they're very
fun to be at. These, what's the racing called? Riot Racing.
Riot Racing.
I love this edition. It's very similar to pod racing, obviously, like we talked about, similar to Phantom Menace, but looks like a really fun event to go to, unless you get blasted, which would suck.
Wear armor of some kind.
Yeah. So they start the race. The other guys start using their dirty tricks to get advantage in the race. Omega's monitoring it. They're expressing some concern. Tech starts using some cool maneuvers and decides to go in the left tunnel, the right left, or the broken left tunnel. And this is like just the scene in general is tense. It's an exciting, fun race scene, right?
It was a fun way to re-experience Mario Kart for the first time.
Yeah, actually, yeah, kind of the same thing. Like, it made me want to go do Riot Racing. I was like, this looks fun. You can shoot guns and ride a speeder. Like, you know, if you took away the risk of death, I would sign up for Riot Racing in a second. Looks awesome.
It would be a great addition to a video game.
Oh,
like
yeah,
a Star Wars
really
video
fun.
Game. That would be so much fun if you could play Riot Racing in a video game. That would be fantastic.
In fact, the fact that Star Wars hasn't done that, like a kid's game, like that's like a Mario Kart, but Star Wars. I mean, they used to with the pod racing games, but a newer one, like a more...
Oh, what if they did it on the Oculus? They should do it on the
sick.
Oculus.
Actually,
in
that's an
virtual
awesome
reality. That is...
Lucasfilm, EA Games, whoever makes those games, contact us because we just came up with $1 billion idea for you.
Riot Racing virtual reality headset game. That would be sick. I would play that. That would be the sickest game ever. The before we get off track on this whole sequence, but when Tech is racing, the Kiner brothers just, God, they're crushing it this season, but they do some sort of like unts in the scene. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And it
very
just
well
really
done.
added
Flows
to
very
the
nicely.
aesthetic. Yeah.
Adds to it. The sound design, again, I know I always talk about this. It's so good. I don't think those people get enough credit who do these things. The noises they make. They have to come up with these different unique noises for all these different things. Even the processing they did on Ben Schwartz's voice to make it sound more robotic. Like that stuff, it's hard. You have to be really creative to do that stuff. And it just meshed really well together. This was a great example of the talent that team has.
Honestly, as far as sound design goes, I think the animated series have really caught my attention the most on it. In terms of like
Yeah.
in terms of how obvious it is. Like, I don't know, like
because
the
if you're wearing
attention.
headphones, you hear
Yeah.
it. Like, it is really there in your face. If you have like nice headphones on,
Mm-hmm.
it adds to it so much more.
I just love the sound of speeders. You know, even in like the Phantom Menace, where
yeah.
like I just love it. Like, you know the one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, or the one that's in Coruscant in Attack of the Clones. That one that.
Yeah. There are just so many good sound effects, and it's just like, I don't know. It was
That's
so
what ties it
creative.
together. That's what makes it really, really like compelling to me. The whole Star Wars universe. It's so creative.
This episode was
Yeah.
actually just in its entirety. This whole episode was just an extremely creative concept. Like everything
and,
from
like-
like the lighting and the environments and the sound design and the announcer and how the TV screen looks when they're
Yeah.
playing games, like with the riot racing games. So it's just like, it was on point.
Really was. I totally agree. So where were we? Oh, Tech goes into the left tunnel. He's in last place. He's trying to look for some other strategies to win, right? Gets in the tunnel. The other guy, I forget the guy's name, but he follows him in there, right? Whatever, I forget the guy's name. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So he's going through and there's all these holes. It's like a broken thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're going through there, but then both those bad guys from Malugi's gang or whatever follow him.
Yeah.
And they try to do the old dirty trick on him, the old shake and bake on him, like they did
Old
to
shake
Teo.
and bake.
Oh, and then one thing we forgot to mention is this is a very Tech move, but he turned off his blasters and dropped them off.
Yeah.
Which I think was also a very big part of his character. Like, he's not one to blast his way out of a situation, unlike a wrecker or a hunter would do. So he wants to use his smarts because he wants to conserve the energy for his shields, which I thought, hey, smart move, good idea. So he doesn't even have that. He leaves that behind. He's relying on these shields to keep him alive. Luckily, when they try to pull the old shake and bake claw move on him and slice in half, he's ready for it. So he pulls the old switcheroo on them. They end up crashing. Boom. Tech. Right through the finish line. Chinhorn guy's upset. I'm just going to call him that from now on because it's way cooler.
Ernie Hudson.
And, Sid's obviously very happy. Everyone's happy and surprised. Crowd's cheering Tech's name. That must be a pretty cool moment for him.
My boy getting the
And-
praise he deserves.
Yeah, about time. About time. He's usually the other guys who are getting the credit for the badass stuff, but he's getting his name chanted, which is a big moment. One of the guys tries to shoot them, right? Or he's like, he wants to shoot them, but
Oh, you
Shinhorn
mean the
guy's
scene in the
like, "Nah."
bar at the end?
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. Sorry, I jumped ahead. We go to the bar, which, by the way, why were they there? Like, I was kind of confused by that.
To get money, I think, because they made a bet on money, so they probably went to collect.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah. So what does Sid says something? Oh, she says something about like owing them some kind of favor.
Yeah, she says, I owe you guys one, and Tech says, I agree, and then Sid says, I'll make it up to you, and then she leaves, which, by the way, foreshadowing her eventual exit, or maybe she dies doing the right thing. I think that really set up her exit from the show, because you got to think, too, like, you can only do the Sid missions for so long, right? And then
There's just side missions in a video game. Essentially, it's like going to the bar at a video game and getting a side quest from somebody and then going to do it. That's what she is.
yeah, and so I think that this episode is like, hey, she's exiting really soon, or the Bad Batch is gonna leave her pretty soon. Especially because like Malagi is really ominous. He's like, well, she's gonna stab you in the back. The trust doesn't go both ways, and neither does the loyalty. And they're like, okay,
Yeah, he says watch your backs. Which if this guy's telling you to watch your back from Sid, I would probably trust him.
you trust Ernie Hudson in this scenario?
I would trust him with my life. His voice is too trusting and creamy. It's
very
That's
succulent.
the best voice. It's a great voice. But yeah, then that's how we end the episode. So even though this a great episode overall, first of all, but second of all, again, not that there was tons of plot points advancing the season forward, it definitely did some foreshadowing, like you talked about, and threw in a couple nuggets here and there of what we can expect later on.
Yeah, I thought it was a super fun episode, but like it's also a really good character building episode. Like you
Yeah.
need to spend time with these guys and like get to know them and understand like their strengths and their weaknesses. And we got a lot of that with like Hunter last season. We got a lot of that with Crosshair last season, and now like even Wrecker. But now this season, it's like they're really honing in on I'm assuming we are going to get an Echo-centric episode either next week or maybe the week after, but I really appreciate that they're like making you spend time with these characters so you can understand how they react in certain scenarios. Like Tech is very analytical and smart, which is why he's able to win the race and why Teo couldn't. Because Teo's like, Teo's going to win. And Tech's like, I'm actually going to sit down and analyze this and understand how to win the race. The other thing is, it helped expand the Star Wars universe. Riot racing? That's an awesome concept. It helps build the world, and it shows you like what people do on like a regular basis. It's like the equivalent of us going to like a football game or a NASCAR race or a hockey game. So it's like taking something in our world, but like running it through the Star Wars churner, and then it coming out on the other side is Riot Racing. So I just think it was like a creative, fun, very enjoyable episode. I had a really good time with it.
Yeah, a lot of gambling in the Star Wars world.
Yeah, a lot of gambling. I don't think we're going to get past that. But no, I do think the biggest thing to note is that Sid's going out somehow, whether she leaves voluntarily or
I think she'll end
killed.
doing the right thing. I think they're trying to cast some doubt into your mind, but I think she'll go out doing the right thing.
Like giving her
maybe
life
sacrificing herself. Maybe she's the sacrificial lamb. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe it's not Tech. Maybe it's Sid. And I hope we see Ernie Hudson again. I liked him.
I do too. I liked him. I liked his character a lot. I love that species. Badass, 10-foot tall chin horn guy. Amazing. Probably does awesome with the ladies. Anyways, let's jump to viewer thoughts, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Time for your guys' thoughts on the episode. A lot of comments.
Do you want me to start with the first
go
one?
Ahead. Yeah, go
so,
ahead.
JL Sprinkles says, despite not serving the plot of the show, I honestly see the potential of Tech being a good pilot and racer. Would hope to see more of it as well.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to focus more on him. That's very apparent in these last couple episodes.
And it's needed.
Yeah.
He was way too sidelined.
Yeah, I agree. I think they recognize that. I think that was probably a note that they had stuck on after rewatching the first season. They're like, let's put some more spice behind this character. And I think this was a good way to do it. He's way more interesting after this.
Yeah.
Hidden Scribble says, it was a fun, tech-centric break from the emotional trauma of last week. The Sid stuff was intriguing. I bet the Batch's relationship with her is going to be ending soon.
Yeah.
We literally said the same thing. And I totally agree with a break from last week. Like those two episodes next to each other work really well, I think, coming off of last week. Heavier, well done. That was such a good episode last week. But this one was just a fun way to like continue, just moves things along, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think as you and I discussed, the relationship with Sid's probably going out the window pretty soon.
Yeah, in what way they choose to do it will be interesting. So, Seabass says, I thought it served its purpose as a filler episode. It was fun and lighthearted. I don't really like the word filler. I'm not like a huge fan of that word, but like I also think like look at the Clone Wars. We also got the most random ass episodes in the Clone Wars, but they still like
the
expanded
episodes.
the world. The droid episodes. I saw the best TikTok on that the other day. I'll explain later. I don't want to sidetrack us too much with the TikTok, but it made me laugh really, really hard. Nicholas Berry says, I liked the second half a lot. Also, it oddly felt like a Hallmark movie. I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, it did feel pretty formulaic, like
yeah,
the way it's done. Maybe that's what he means.
Like Hallmark and what? As in Sid and like Malagi have like a Hallmark romance.
Yeah, I don't really see it as that. Usually when I think of a Hallmark movie, I think of like Christmas movies and corny, like I'm moving away from the big city to the countryside kind of thing. And I didn't
Hey Matt, Tech might get an episode like that. He's like, I'm gonna go off and move on the planet where Cut LaQuaine lives, and I'm gonna find my own romance. He's gonna go off with Wanda Sykes' character.
By the way, I thought we would have seen. She was only in like 3 seconds of that one episode. I mean, she'll probably come back in a later episode. I just thought that's weird that they introduced her in the first episode.
It would have been interesting if she was like the Malagi character.
Yeah, maybe she'll be like their connect after Sid dies. I'm just gonna pretend like we know what's happening to Sid, and let's pretend that happens. Maybe the Wanda Sykes character is their new like wizard mission person who they get their side quests from. And then we'll have a Wrecker episode, like an emotional Wrecker episode where he deals with his trauma and his upbringing in life, and having to deal with being dumb.
I want to see a Hallmark Tech movie. Tech meets a woman, can be Wanda Sykes or somebody else, falls in love, moves away from the big city into the country like Cut LaQuaine, and it's a beautiful romance that blossoms, and he learns the true meaning of letting someone into his life. Give it to me, Lucasfilm. That is my pitch. I want a Hallmark Tech movie. Anyway, Back to the Future fan. Back to the Future fan 88 says, it was fine, an average episode, but it was cool to see a new form of racing, new sport in the Star Wars universe, even though I was hoping the sport was pod racing, and just seeing what the Star Wars equivalent of Earth sports and other Earth things is fascinating to me. Also says, I don't know how you guys feel, but I think the Bad Batch should just ditch Sid. All she seems to do is abuse their abilities in desperation for a form of payment. I know they're just trying to survive and stay low, but I don't know. I think I agree with Echo's idea of all of them eventually fighting against the Empire. Sorry, I lost my place there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they got to get away from Sid. I think that's a given. I think the writers know that. I just think that,
they're setting it
we
up,
need to
I
move.
think.
We need to move on. She's served her purpose, and I think we're moving on from her quickly here.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate
any other
Tony
comments?
West says, I appreciated the change of scenery in this episode. A lot of people just saying filler, but fun to watch. I like the episode, funny and solid. All really positive stuff. The OC Maniac said, my only wish is I wish it would have been pod racing. But other than that, I liked it. Yeah, I was a little confused as to why they didn't utilize that. I mean, I'm cool with the riot racing. I thought it was a cool, interesting creative element, but it seems like you could have plugged in pod racing pretty easily there, and that would have been maybe it would have been too similar to the Phantom Menace, because they did have kind of a lot of
the same
in
elements.
this.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they did it. But either way, I'm fine with it. It would have been cool, but this was still cool too. So no harm, no foul, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you.
Brandon Deeks said, good episode, but didn't really serve to further the overall plot of the show. Be careful trusting Sid is a given. We learned that in season 1. Yeah, I totally agree. Didn't serve that much over the overall plot of the show, except for the Sid stuff and developing Tech more. That was the purpose of this. And just, you gotta have fun stuff in there once in a while. This is every TV show. Not every episode's gonna be advancing the plot in a huge way, which you don't necessarily need to do. Sometimes you need to have episodes like this.
Yeah, and you need to build your characters and their relationships to each other to actually have a relationship with them. If all they did was just you need, with a cast as big as this, the Bad Batch has a really big cast, and so you need to kind of make space to get to know these characters.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your audience isn't going to connect with them, and you're not going to care if and you're not going to care if Tech dies off. I think after this episode, people are going to be like, oh my God, I hope they don't do anything to Tech. Oh my God, I hope they don't do anything to Echo.
Yeah. And I think it's good that they've been breaking it up a little bit. The first season was them all doing something, but if you have these episodes where it's just a couple of them at a time, or you're focusing just on Crosshair or just on Tech and Wrecker, it's more impactful for those characters. So, good stuff overall. I was happy with it. I think I'd give it I'd give it a 7.9, 8.1-ish.
I was going to say about the same thing. 8.
Yeah.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, pretty good. I was happy with it, and it keeps the pacing of the show good, and I'm looking forward to next week. So if you were to guess next week, do you think that next week will be the Rex calling to be like, hi, help me, Cody needs help? It's going to be a big one next week, I think. I think they'll probably have some pretty good stuff next week, and where they're really going to start introducing the overarching plot, and we're going to start seeing where their paths are going to meet one another in regards to Rex, Cody, Bad Batch, Crosshair, Omega. How is this all going to connect? And I think next week we'll get a hint of that.
Yeah. If I were to criticize one thing about this episode, I will say this is a huge pet peeve of mine in animation. But when a character gets critically injured, or they break their arm or they break their leg, like how Tech did, usually the following week they'll just brush over it and they'll be like, he's fine, he's all good, not he's back on his feet, and that injury didn't really happen. That would be my one thing, is in animation sometimes I just wish that they would carry out X character got injured and you will see them injured for 2 episodes and then you'll move on. And so that's just a tiny little irritation of mine, where it's Tech crushed his femur in the first 2 episodes, and then it's And then the next episode he's fine, and then there's like no addressing it or whatever. And that's like a tiny nitpick, but that's also just a pet peeve of mine in animation. Where I'm like, if you're gonna hurt somebody, can you show the consequences of that, or maybe how like just carry it out one more episode and then move on? I don't know. Tiny
like, make
nitpick
it-
though.
Yeah, make it a little bit more of a thing, so it's a little bit more realistic. Yeah, I hear you on that.
I'm just like, that's stupid.
Yeah,
Any
I mean,
other
look,
thoughts?
I nitpick at stuff on that all the time. No other thoughts for me. I think there's really not much more to say. We'll see next week how they start to develop this more. It was a fun week this week, and we'll keep doing this. And we have a lot more of these episodes left to go. So if you guys want to follow along with us, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at @Star_Wars_pod. Please click the notification bell below and the subscribe button if you have not done that yet. We would appreciate it because you guys want to see our reaction videos and our breakdowns for these new episodes, don't you? You do. You guys want to see it. And then also, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. Or if you hate us, click the dislike button. I don't care. Any engagement's good engagement, in my opinion. So just let us know what you guys' thoughts are. What are we thinking for next week? Are our theories on point or are they not? What do we think is going to happen with Sid and Tech, Cody, Captain Rex,
Ricky.
Echo, Tick?
Ricks?
Let us know in the comments below, and we will talk about more comments on. If you guys want to be featured on the show, go to our community page and comment there. That's where we're getting our comments from if you're curious on that. Or just email us at anotherstarwarspod@gmail.com. Lastly, do not forget, you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can listen to us. We have video on Spotify. Got to mention that every time in case you want to be on the go and you don't have YouTube Premium or something. You can watch the video on Spotify as well, which is a nice little handy feature. If you are there, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you're on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. Write us a little comment. Say, hey guys, thanks. I'm enjoying this. Because it's nice to know that and it helps it.
Or
helps us
just
in
type out the
rankings.
names of the Bad Batch.
Type out the names of the Bad Batch. Yeah, great. Just write a comment. We appreciate it. But yeah, in the meantime, we will see you guys next week for our reaction videos, which will be out on Wednesday night or
Yes.
early Thursday morning, depending on how quickly we can edit. And then we'll do another breakdown series, which will come out Friday of next week, right? Or are we going to do Saturday?
It'll be Saturday.
Okay. So we'll have more.
Saturday
consistent-
morning. So it will be up on Saturday morning.
Yeah. So guys, stay tuned for that. That's why it's important to subscribe. But we will see you guys next time on another Star Wars podcast. Bye.
See you guys.